So I want to connect to Karin's speech here a little bit, but I will go into a bit more detail, I think, of one of the aspects where you ended. So I will talk how we do in the Swedish Research Service in order to have a good dialogue with clients in order to raise quality, relevance, and also the timing of our research. I'm the head of the research service in Swedish Parliament. So the research service, just a few minutes to tell you how we work. We do about 2,000 requests per year, and all requests are answered by a formal report, which is registered and delivered. And we only work on request from the client. We don't do anything on own initiative. So the question that Karin was talking about, that you need to know what the clients want to have, that's not a problem for us because they always put the question to us, even though they might not always know anyway, but they put the question to us in writing. We work in all policy areas, a lot of economic calculations, legal, political science questions, all kind of statistics, and even a little bit in the natural science area. And usually the requests are usually very specific in our case. We don't work with information. We only do original calculations or legal short analysis. But as you understand, we work in a very short format. We deliver 10 reports per day. So it's quite a delivery, and they are short, but they are usually at a very detailed level. And it's exactly according to what the clients would need. It could be like if you change the VAT by 0.5 percentage point, what will happen with the income distribution in this area of Sweden, or something like that. Or some very specific legal issue, if it's possible to change this and how that would affect other legislation, for example. Our clients are, of course, the MP, but we serve a lot of the MP will be served through the party group secretariats, and those are, we have 8 different political parties in Parliament in Sweden, and each of them have quite a big secretariat with competent staff that will help. They are not just secretaries, they're actually usually analysts themselves. So they will help the MPs to put the questions. So a lot of the questions will go through those secretariats, but it's still for the MPs. Then, of course, we do work for the ECPRD, which is, of course, important, and some other aspects. And we are 38 staff. So now over to the issue of dialogue. So one would think then that we already know what the clients would need, but yes, maybe we know, but in order to keep a good quality, and I will come into these more just now, I just wanted to outline them. So it's both to give them the right and the good quality, and also to keep our integrity in the research service. So we formulate the questions so it's answerable. But it also will help us to keep the relevance by having the dialogue with the client, because it's not enough with the written question. You have to go deeper than that. And then it's very important with the timing, when they really need the report, because they need everything now. But if we can optimize this will be more efficient for them and for us. So it's these 3 aspects that are very relevant to have in the dialogue. So I want to talk about 3 different dialogue that we have developed. And actually, when I came to the research service, that was over 10 years ago, it was very much so that we still had the same ways of working, but we had, I think, too little dialogue. It was much more that the clients were just sending in everything in a black hole, and we were sending it back in a black hole, and we had quite limited dialogue, and therefore it was suffering on quality, integrity, relevance, and timing. So we have the first kind of dialogue is that we have made the researcher, each researcher, to have a dialogue in each request. Usually the written requests come in our assignment system, and thereafter the researcher should be in contact with the client. First of all, in maybe half of all those 1,000, if you have 2,000 requests for a year, maybe in half of the cases, in 1,000 cases, we will reformulate the question to some extent. We will reformulate the years or the definition or how the question is posed. So we take the liberty to rewrite the question. But of course, we should always try to have a good spirit to have it in consultation with the client. But it can also be that we send an email to the client saying, thank you for your question. This is the way we're going to respond to your question. 1, 2, 3. So we are very specific, because we have seen that if we don't do that, it will be, in many cases, we will lose on our integrity as a research organization. It will be like you get the question, well, that's how the reply will be, is a saying in Swedish. Maybe it was a bad translation, but in any case, it's very important that we are able to rephrase the question. And a second part is that we need to assure, even if the questions seem crystal clear, in many cases, still the MP meant something else. So in that case, even if it doesn't seem to be necessary with the dialogue, we still have it. And in many cases, it will come out other things that are useful, maybe for relevance or other things. Or maybe the MP actually thought of something else and wrote something. I'm sure you have experienced that. Another thing is to discuss the timing, because in many cases the MP or the party secretariat will say that, well, we want it in 1 week, but then they want everything in 1 week. So we have to, maybe one thing we can deliver tomorrow, another thing in 3 weeks. So we try to distribute out the timing, and actually it is for the best of the client. We also have a checklist. We talked about quality before, so we have a quite rigorous checklist that each researcher needs to follow. And one of those points in terms of process is that you have to call the client or email or somehow. And also having a dialogue in each individual request enables you to have feedback from maybe what you delivered the last time to talk about that. So it will be a loop that is valuable. So that was the first and maybe the most important form of dialogue, to really be concrete in the exact working on the request. And this dialogue is not done by the manager or by me. It is done directly from the researcher doing the job to the MP or the party secretariat staff. A second form of dialogue, which is more forward-looking, is that, for instance, if an opposition party, MPs from opposition party, maybe they want to come up with a proposal for a new income tax system. They want to, it's a whole area of question. Maybe they want to put 20, 30 requests for that area. Then we can go and meet the client. It can be a group of MPs from that party, or it can be the party secretariat. And we can tell them from their broad ideas how we concretely could help them. So we can even, in cooperation with them, specify the questions. We are not able, of course, to be agenda setting, but we are able to tell them what is the realistic kind of questions to put. And that will save a lot of time too. And we can, from the methodological point of view, already from the beginning tell what is possible and what is not possible. So that is usually very valuable. And we can also plan our resources a little better. If we talk to all 8 parties in a certain time period during year, we can plan a bit more what we're going to do, what kind of resources will be important. It can even influence the recruitment of staff. The third kind of dialogue is that we have annually. It will be me and my 3 deputies. We will go and meet the management of the party group secretariat, 8 of them, sort of 8 different meetings. And then we will first to them explain how we work, because that needs to be explained every year, because there will always be new people and they forget how we work and so on. So that is good to have that as an initial statement. But then more importantly really is that we get an accumulated feedback from the clients, and then if the party secretariat have done a good job, they have interviewed a lot of the MPs and also the other staff of the party group secretariat, so they have a good view of what has been good, what has been less good, when were we relevant and not, how about timing, if we were too late many times they will be irritated. So it's important to get the feedback historically, sort of 1 year backwards, and of course we get that more often for certain areas, but this is for the overall service to that party. But we will of course use this information for improving our work. This is one of the main instruments really to make improvements for the activities of the service. And we can also give feedback to the group secretariats, for instance, if our reports have been misused in the media and so on, then this will be a good occasion to collect as an accumulation. We do it individually also if they have used our reports wrongly in the media. But and it can also be other things, from the side, how they order things from us, how that is working from our perspective. And then, of course, to plan ahead and to meet each of the 8 parties will be a very good surveillance for us about what is happening in the politics. And since we work under strict confidentiality, they share actually their secrets with us, we believe, to a quite large extent. What are the strategic policy areas, etc., for the sort of coming election or something, because they know that is not coming out. So a few conclusions here is that since we work with so many requests and in a fast pace and only on requests, I think the dialogue at these different levels is really necessary in order to both have the right level of quality, possibly not the highest level of quality, because you cannot have that if you have like 1 week to work with something, but also an even quality, we say. We don't want to have any bottoms in the quality, but we want to have an even quality. But also that we should be really relevant to the client, so that we will have the dialogue to hear the relevance and to really understand what the clients are going to use this report for, because usually we also ask that, what are you going to use this for? Even though they don't have to tell us, but it's easier if they tell us. And of course the timing and the purpose of all this dialogue, that's not for ourselves, it is to give a better service to the MPs. And actually I am surprised every time we have these management meetings, because you don't want to bother clients too much either. I mean, you would think that we shouldn't call them all the time and so on. But each time, actually, they say that they want more of this dialogue, because each time we meet them, it's always been a few cases where we didn't communicate, some late delivery or some problem in finding the data, etc. So each time they say, why didn't you contact us that time? So I'm usually a little surprised that it's that they want even more of that. So that was my presentation, and I hope to hear some of your comments on it later on. Thank you very much.